After working really hard for the last week, I have all my orchids inside except for the nobly type Dendrobium hybrids, my cool growing Cymbidiums, the Sophronitis coccinea, and my Dendrobium cuthbertsonii. They need either to cool down some or it's too warm in my grow space still, and so those are the ones that are still outside. The next week will be cool but above freezing, so they should be fine outside. I'm going to do a quick tour of the area. Right here we have the blooming plants that I set aside for the iOS show, and they're all on my work table because I have a bunch of things that still need to be sorted in. I have a tray of Cataleas in semi-hydro right here, where you can see that they are not in the pots. So the stuff in the pots is dead. They're fully out of the pot. So all of these need to be repot. So I've set them aside over here. I don't have a good space for my Neophonetia falcata. The Encyclia radiata is right here. I'm hoping it will bloom in time for the iOS fall show. Here's my variegated lemon way up top there. So the space in here is really, really tight. It's very hard to show. We're now looking at my north windows, and I have a bunch of Cataleas and stuff hanging from the window here. I can put stuff a lot closer now that the operable window that was here has been removed. And then I have, so that those can be sprayed, they're mostly mounted. I have a tray down here where I have overflow plants. And then when I spray, hopefully most of the water won't drip on the floor like you see right there, but into the plants below or into the trays. Unfortunately, because of where these are located, it's very easy for Pinto to get to, as you can see here. Thankfully, this is not a great leaf anyway that's on its way out, but he's definitely been having some chew. I have put in grid. So this is grid that I had on the lower two levels of all my shelving, so as to prevent Pinto from getting to the plants and chewing them. Unfortunately, some of the Catalea's leaves are sticking out some. It's not perfect, but hopefully this will keep him from getting to them. A little bit different arrangement this year. I have all my Aurantiaca and Guatemalensis type hybrids up on the north side, mostly because I needed this large shelf space right here. The Richard Muellers, some of them are above them. A lot of my Richard Muellers grew and I had to put them into bigger pots, and so they can't all be together. I just don't have enough space on one shelf for them. And then up top here I have my Guatemalensis and then more Cataleas. Just over about 50% of my collection is Cataleas, and so they're taking up most of the space. I have in the middle of my room two of those room dividers from IKEA. They don't sell this anymore. I'm glad I got the last set. And I actually have mounts on these on both sides. So these room dividers are on wheels, and I can rotate them to expose them to sunlight on either side. So they have mostly bifoliate Cataleas on both sides, but I can also determine how much light they get depending on whether they're facing the sun or away from the sun. This shelf has some dendrobiums right here, which are facing away from the sun right now. They don't need quite as much light. And then I have Nodosa type hybrids on this side facing the sun, where they can receive a lot more light. And you can see that I've got this Brassavola nodosa in bloom right here. The previous Reptile Fogger that I was using last year, it has a tendency to get mineral buildup and then leak. And I had tried to prevent my floors from being damaged by the leaking by putting it in a tray. But then what happened is that the tray filled up with water when it was leaking, and that soaked the electronics and it shorted out. I'm trying this new Reptile Fogger. I'm not too happy with it because it looks like I have this on a power strip that has a timer on it, and when it loses power and the power comes back, it doesn't turn itself back on. So I have to manually turn this on and off. This one's supposed to have a humidity sensor down here so that you can set it, I don't know if you can see it, set it to a certain amount of humidity, and then it'll auto sense how much humidity is and turn itself on when it has detected that the humidity is low. Unfortunately, it seems to think it's 95% humidity in here, but my hygrometer says that it's only about 70%. So while I bought 2 of these because they were the cheapest Reptile Fogger available on Amazon that allowed you to basically fill from the top, I'm not sure that it's going to work for me long term, but we'll see. I'm not getting the ones that I had before, which were Reptile Foggers, because I just can't handle the leaking. I have tubing up here so that the fog can go up to my Cataleas up on the top shelf. And you can also see that I have my Fred Clarkaras up there as well, some Catasetums. And I think this is a Pierre Courgette right here, spiking. But we'll have to see. I have all my seedlings that I potted up from Community Pot down underneath here, safely tucked away, hidden from Pinto. And then of course more of this wire shelving on the second level for all my Cataleas. I'm hoping that even though this side is open right here, that he won't be able to reach it because my shelf will be in the way. We'll see how well that works. Then I have in the southern window a few Vanda / Ascocenda hybrids that I have left. My one Stanhopea, which isn't dead yet, but I don't know that it'll ever bloom. I've had it for years. Then I have this Ficus Metada, which I brought in from from outside, and basically when that happened, the tips on it right here died. This really does not like to be disturbed when it's spiking. And so I've had this happen before, and I thought it was because it got too cold or too hot, but it was obviously very hot outside, and then it was going to get cold, so I brought it in, and it just really did not appreciate that change. Down on the bottom here is, I have some epiphyllums you can see, but then I have some Cataleas. This one lived on the floor last year, and you can see that it's been a Pinto chew toy. This is new chewing that he did just yesterday. I was moving plants and I heard this crunch. I'm hoping that it won't get more damaged, but obviously it's in a bad place to keep it away from Pinto. And a few other Cataleas that have been previously chewed by Pinto. And then here are the last remaining paths from Orchid Inn that I'm trying to grow and see what the flowers look like. I have some more seedlings in here. These are my plugs. They're nice and foggy, but you can see them down in there. And then these are the smaller Cataleas that I have here. And then for these plants, because they're on the north side, or sorry, the west side of the room, which is shady all afternoon, I have supplemental lighting on these. So this is not meant to light them completely, but just some supplemental in case this area is too dark. And I don't know that it does all that much good, but again, it's supplemental, so it doesn't have to make them grow. And then up top here, I have all my Oncidium hybrids, my one Sobralia. Here's at the How We Are Lava Burst. Luminet's a little hard out. Not a great deal of spiking, but it likes to bloom. It blooms a lot. So backing this way, once it gets cold enough, my nobly typed dendrobiums will probably go underneath these hanging plants in that spot right there. There's a tray there right now to catch any water from when I spray these. And of course, this gigantic epiphyllum that has no home. You'll notice that I have a lot of Spanish moss here, and I'm intending to give about half of it away next week at the iOS show. While I was bringing in all my orchids, I decided that I would weed them. So at some point, there were little passengers like this that came in on plants that I bought. They self-seed, and then because semi-hydro is such a nice condition, they are growing everywhere. Some of my Cataleas were completely getting smothered, and so I decided that I needed to weed. But even after a few days, some of the younger weeds, like I've got oxalis right here, are all coming back. So it is a never-ending fight, but at least it's easier to see my plants now. They're not as covered in weeds because it was so hard to get to the weeds. I actually had to use tweezers and to tweeze all this stuff out. Last but not least, I have the plants that I'm hoping will find new homes at the iOS show next week. In my other sunroom, it's pretty cool in here, but there's no light, so the cool grower staying outside is better. I do have a few things here that could use a home that I don't have sales tags for, so I'm thinking that I will offer them up for free to a good home for like the cost of shipping. Basically, these are not doing great, and I may just compost them. This one's actually got a new growth coming out, even though this stuff is really dry looking. So I think it will do well for someone, but I need to cull with prejudice, and so it needs to find a new home. I also have a Richard Mueller cross here that has a new growth coming out, but I bought 4 of these from Orchid Eros, and that one's not doing so great, so I think it should find a new home. And finally, I have this Aloha's Dream Dust that it has Chantilly lace as a parent, and I don't know what it is with Chantilly lace and me, but they grow fine until I try to repot them or pot them up in this case, which is what I did here at the beginning of the summer, and basically then they die. So the new growths all turned black, and now it looks really, really sick. So I will compost this if nobody wants it, but it is kind of heavy. If anybody wants those 3 items, For the cost of shipping, let me know.